On today's American Football Stories episode, we'll look ahead to this weekend's games and give our gambling advice for select college football matchups in Week 7 of the NFL. American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint is a great tool that allows us to add graphics to player highlight clips, similar to the graphics you see on TV. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly tell a straight video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game with Coach Paint today.
What time is it? Game time!
It's gonna be special. They gonna talk about this forever.
Welcome to American Football Stories.
Puts his head down, crashes and spins, and dives. Touchdown!
Bringing together the many perspectives that make up college football in the NFL.
Football is one of the greatest sports ever invented.
From players and coaches.
Believe, baby, believe, baby.
Hey, we playing to win right here, fellas.
To the front office and scouts.
The public is finally beginning to catch up, but they don't even know half the truth.
Us against the world, let's get it.
Your hosts, Robert Parker and Nick Knudsen, bring you American Football Stories.
Welcome to the American Football Stories podcast, brought to you by Coach Paint. Today is October 21st, 2020. I'm Nick Knudsen. My co-host Robert Parker III is back. How's it going today, Rob? How was Seattle?
Seattle was great, Nick. How's it going?
You said you were pretty impressed by the arena out there, that new arena they're building for the Kraken.
Yeah, really impressed with the new arena. It really looks like they're putting a lot of money into that. They're definitely being eco-friendly with the arena, so that was amazing to see. But I had a great time in Seattle. Seattle's a great city, so hopefully I can get out there sooner than later.
Get there for some actual sporting events.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Seahawks are high on my list. I've heard sailgating out at UW is a pretty good game day experience as well. I want to check that out.
Definitely got to check that out. So those Pac-12 after dark games out there on the West Coast. So if we're out there, Nick, we definitely got to check those out and enjoy ourselves once this pandemic clears up.
Hey, we're getting closer to Pac-12 returning, but we got the Big Ten coming back this week. The schedule it's starting to feel a little bit like real college football, like not a weird season like it's been. So you got some Big Ten action starting this weekend, and we'll jump into the schedule. We always acknowledge the COVID-related cancellations, postponements first. Colorado State, New Mexico is just straight up canceled, not postponed. We've seen the word postponed used a lot, Rob. I know with some of these smaller schools, like the non-Power 5 schools, they have been canceling games throughout. So this isn't totally out there. But I think the word cancel is going to start replacing postpone for a lot of these games in college football, Rob, because at some point you're just going to run out of weeks to play.
Yeah, you're right about that, Nick. Once again, the season is coming around to the end. I mean, we're in October already, and November surely approaching us very soon. So just like you said, we're definitely going to run out in weeks for this calendar year. So I just like you say, I think we're going to see more cancel games than more postponement games moving forward.
Yeah, I think that word cancel, you're going to start seeing it more and more. All right, let's start on the games that are being played Thursday night. Appalachian State hosts Arkansas State. Pretty solid Sun Belt matchup, 7:30 ESPN. Friday, October 23rd, Jacksonville State goes to FIU, 7 p.m. ESPN3. Tulsa goes to South Florida, 7:30 ESPN. And Illinois goes to Camp Randall to play the Wisconsin Badgers at 8 p.m. on the Big Ten Network. Rob, the Fighting Illini, this was one of the biggest upsets in college football last year. Lovie Smith's team, they took down Wisconsin at home. I believe it might not have been their homecoming, I was going to say. But regardless, it was a huge upset last year. However, the Badgers are favored by 19 points in this one. It's Wisconsin minus 19, minus 110 on the spread, minus 1,200 on the money line, and the total is at 51. Any chances at a repeat this year, Rob?
I just don't see it. Once again, Reggie Corbin kind of stole the show last year in that game, Nick, just running all over that Wisconsin Badgers defense. I know they returned Brandon Peters at the quarterback position, and he does have weapons on the outside, two notable big name receivers. But once again, I think Wisconsin, coming to this game with a bad taste in their mouth because of that upset win last year. And I'm not too comfortable with that spread, but it's pretty big spread, especially for the first game of the year in the Big Ten for both of these teams. But one thing I am comfortable with is the over. I think, tackling is definitely going to be an issue. And I know Wisconsin wants to run the ball, but maybe they open up the offense a little bit more with no Jonathan Taylor being there. So one thing I am comfortable with this line is the over. So give me the over in this Wisconsin and Illinois game. I see anywhere from a, 38-21, 38-17 game. So give me the over.
Yeah, I think I'm in that range with you, but I'm gonna go on the 38-21 side. I definitely think Illinois is a better team than we expected last year. They're a better team than we expected last year, and I think that they're developing. Lovie Smith, he inherited a total mess, and they've been patient with him, and they let him grow. If he grows his program into competitive force in the Big Ten West, college football needs to stop and take note. He's a ways off from doing that, but they need to stop and take note and watch the patience of Illinois. Has just been the complete opposite of the way college football and football in general has been running over the last, decade or two, but particularly the last 5 years, I feel like we're getting less and less patient with these guys. So if Lovie Smith can make Illinois a competitive force in that Big Ten West, watch out. Like, I think you're going to see some different trends on the coaching front. I'm going to take the Illini to cover the 19. Wisconsin, you talk about them opening up the offense. I'll believe that when I see it. Wisconsin, until I see otherwise, they're big, gnarly offensive line that loves to run the ball. They got some guys ready to replace Jonathan Taylor. They're a factory at that running back position. I think they're going to play Badgers football, and I definitely think they're capable of covering this. However, it's opening day, maybe a couple of mistakes here or there. Maybe you're trying a little too hard after the loss last year. It's either going to be like a revenge story or just they're too sloppy and they're trying too hard. It's going to be one of those two things for Wisconsin. So I'm going to be on the side that I think Illinois makes a couple plays and Wisconsin makes a couple mistakes and Illinois sticks around to some degree, at least within 19 points. I'll take the Illini with the spread at plus 19. The other Friday night game is Louisiana. The Raging Cajuns play UAB, 8 p.m. CBS Sports Network. Don't sleep on that game. That's a pretty good one. Louisiana at UAB. UAB is tough at home. Saturday, October 24th at noon on the ACC Network. We're only doing this game because Clemson's the number one team. You got to talk about Clemson. We can't not talk about Clemson. But minus 46 on the spread, the money line's not an option, and the over-under is at 62. Like, do we need a pause for laughter with the 46 on the spread, Rob?
Yeah, this is the largest, this is the largest
ACC game
of the week, and it's the ACC game. So, yeah, we definitely have to laugh at it. But once again, this Syracuse roster is decimated, not only with injuries, but with opt-out players or whatever. They have fewer than 60 scholarship players that are suiting up for this game. And once again, they lost to Liberty. So I think that was the laugh of the Syracuse Orange team losing to Liberty last week, more so than this 46.5 point, underdog spread. But once again, Clemson is a machine. I think they roll in this one. I'm definitely not confident in taking a 46 point spread. Nope. But I tell you one thing that I will take the over. So I'm definitely comfortable in the over hitting. So I'm just going to lean on the over with this one, Nick.
I'm going to do the over at 62 as well after Clemson just rolled up 73 at Georgia Tech last week. I just think this game speaks to the state of the ACC. We saw North Carolina go down in a head scratcher to Florida State last weekend. We'll get to that in a minute. But Notre Dame in North Carolina, I think after a few weeks, we saw Miami take their crack at Clemson. But other than that, Notre Dame, North Carolina were kind of expected to be the top challengers. Do you see them anywhere close to Clemson? Or has Clemson just got the biggest cakewalk in the history of cakewalks to a college football playoff berth?
I mean, you never want to speak in absolutes, but once again, it really seems like Clemson has the biggest cakewalk to the national championship right now, especially just like you said, putting up 73 points on Georgia Tech, who's been playing fairly well. But once again, this Syracuse team is just loaded, and it really seems like they're on the mission to win another national championship, but that's what it's looking like.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's not good for a conference. 46-point spread. Oh. All right, let's go to Columbus. Big Ten football at noon. Ohio State, the number 5 ranked Buckeyes, minus 26 points over the Huskers, minus 3,200 on the money line, and the total is at 68. I'll tell you what, Rob, the Buckeyes, just for anyone who hasn't followed this rivalry, or quote unquote rivalry, I should say, the first year Nebraska joined the Big Ten, Ohio State, it was a year where they had a lot of suspensions. I believe it was the year where Jim Tressel got let go right before the season, and Luke Fickell coached the team. Braxton Miller, true freshman, came in, played. This game against Nebraska was actually, they played pretty well in it, but Nebraska had the better team at the time. They ended up winning 34-27. Well, that's the only time the Buckeyes have lost to Nebraska since they joined the Big Ten. 2012, 63-38. 2016, 62-3. I was at that game. It was horrible. 2017, 56-14. Nebraska, first year Scott Frost, they come to the shoe. They surprised everyone. 5-point game, 36-31. But then Ohio State goes out to Lincoln last year and end of September absolutely rips Nebraska a new one, 48-7. And guess what? The score wasn't even as close as that says. 48-7 was an absolute beatdown. So when you see a 26-point spread, Ohio State versus Nebraska, it's well-deserved. It's well-deserved based on the track record here. But there's part of me that just, it's opening weekend. You kind of mentioned it with Wisconsin. Kind of makes me a little nervous. I do think the Buckeyes are going to rack up a ton of points in this one. Give me like a 56-21 type of game or something like that. So I'm like, I'll take the over even though it's at 68.
Yeah, I'm actually going to hop on this spread with Ohio State. And the reason why I say that, I really think this is going to be the year where, if you're in the Big Ten or you're in any other conference, you're going to have to put up points. It's going to kind of come back to that old BCS formula where, you have to put up the most points, and, the panel is probably going to give you a nod because of how good you look. And I think Ryan Day, especially being under the tutelage of Urban Meyer, I think he knows that better than any other coach probably in the nation. So once again, I think Justin Fields and this Ohio State offense team is going to roll. I really don't think Nebraska has the talent to keep up. So give me Ohio State on the spread. I think Justin Fields goes out and proves that, he's a capable quarterback of being, the number 1 pick in this year's coming draft. He's seeing what Trevor Lawrence has been doing. So I think he goes out and he makes a statement. I think he covers that spread along with that offense and defense. So give me the spread.
Yeah, it's the opening day is the only thing that keeps me away from it, but I can definitely see that happening too. All right, we got a ranked game in the ACC. Just was knocking it, but it was knocking the ACC a minute ago. But let's stick within it here on noon on ESPN. The number 14 North Carolina Tar Heels versus number 23 NC State Wolfpack. The Tar Heels are a 15.5-point favorite, minus 105. Minus 105 on the spread, minus 700 on the money line, and the total's at 60.5. Rob, the FSU loss, it was inexplicable. I mean, just FSU jumped them that first half. Jordan Travis did whatever he wanted on the ground. He only completed 8 passes on the night, though. And FSU almost collapses entirely in the second half if it's not for a couple drop passes. North Carolina, completes a comeback, and we're calling it a scare, and they're still ranked in the top 5 today. But NC State is sneaky good, all right? 4-1. One loss is to Virginia Tech, 45-24, and I believe it's a well-depleted Virginia Tech roster. But we've seen Virginia Tech battle a couple times here this season. They can play some ball. Their last 3 wins are 3-0, 30-29 against Pitt, 38-21 against Virginia, 31-20 against Duke. So they're scoring, they're handling it. It makes me lean North Carolina State in the points here at plus 15.5. So I'm gonna go with the Wolfpack at plus 15.5.
Yeah, give me North Carolina in this one. I think they bounced back from a terrible loss to Florida State. And once again, I know I've been on the North Carolina bandwagon, this whole preseason and actually during the season. But North Carolina is really talented and they're really good. They're just not top 5 good. But one thing that I can't bank on is Sam Howell and the passing game, and actually, North Carolina running the ball. So North Carolina can put up points in bunches. So I think they have a bad taste in their mouth from the last week upset loss against Florida State. I think they bounce back and they roll and they cover the spread in this one. So give me the spread in this one. I got them covering in
You
this
trust
one.
that defense? That's what I don't trust. I know they're going to score. But you trust that defense to keep what seems to be a decent NC State offense down?
Once again, I think the whole team just plays with a different level of focus and motivation. And because of that, Florida State lost. And I think Mac Brown, I think the loss might help him in the long run. But once again, I really think, North Carolina comes out with their foot on the pedal, from the opening kickoff. And, I think they stay on the gas until the end of the game. So I think they play a complete game, and I'm comfortable with taking the spread with North Carolina this week.
Good test for both teams. Let's see what NC State is too. Good test. That could be an interesting game to keep your eye on. All right, Kansas State, noon on FS1. We're only doing this game because of Kansas State, but they're at -20, -110 overall, minus 1,400 on the money line, and the total is 48.5. All right, so you got a 20-point spread here. Another sneaky good team in K-State. Did you happen to catch the bad beat we got on Kansas last week?
I didn't get a chance to catch that, Nick.
Yeah, -22.5 on the spread. West Virginia goes up late to be up by 28, and then Puka Williams returns a kickoff with 1.5 minutes left to cover the spread for Kansas.
Well, I don't think that will happen this week because if I recall from reading, I think Puka Williams actually opted out for the rest of the season. So that's one playmaker that Kansas won't have moving forward. And one thing, I'm not comfortable in Kansas State with the spread, but I really think this over is going to hit. I think Kansas, put up 1 or 2 touchdowns, but I think Kansas put up enough points that Kansas State put up enough points to cover the over. So I'm comfortable with taking the over in this one, Nick.
I'm going to take Kansas State in the points. I don't care that I got burned last week on that. I don't think this Kansas team is very good at all. So you got Kansas State. You got the over at 48.5. I got K-State -20. Let's go back to the Sun Belt. Another great Sun Belt matchup for this weekend here. Georgia Southern goes to Coastal Carolina at noon on ESPNU, and Coastal Carolina's favored by 5.5, -110 on the spread there, -210 on the money line, and 51.5 is the total. Coastal Carolina's ranked. I love it. Program started in 2003. They were an FCS team through 2016, and they didn't start playing the Sun Belt until 2017. Georgia Southern, after losing them the first year in the Sun Belt, they've smoked them the last 2 years, though. The Chanticleers have lost by 27-17 to Georgia Southern in the last 2 years. Makes me kind of lean Georgia Southern on this. I like that Georgia Southern program with that old school option and everything. They kind of know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. But I think I like the over better. It's only 51. You only have to get me to 51.5 here. So let's go over at 51.5.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you, Nick. I definitely is going to go with the over as well. I think Coastal Carolina's been playing some great football this year, but just like you said, you rolled out the stat with Georgia Southern and the streak that they have against Coastal. So one thing that I am comfortable in this prediction is taking the over.
And this is going to be something. I mean, we've seen this Coastal Carolina team spank Kansas to open the season. They've won some good games. So let's see if Coastal Carolina keeps it rolling. But both of us think it's going to be a high scoring game that's going to be interesting to watch. Mercer goes to Army noon, CBS Sports Network. Auburn goes to Ole Miss at noon on the SEC Network. Give me your quick reactions to Auburn and Ole Miss's performance this past weekend, Rob.
Not good. I tell you that.
Which one was worse?
Wow. I think I'm gonna have to go with Ole Miss. Honestly, yeah. I think the Ole Miss performance was definitely
7 turnovers,
and not only that, just the week before, playing kind of playing Alabama tough for at least 3 quarters, and then you kind of turn around and you just play a horrible game. So I think the Ole Miss performance was definitely the worst between the two, between them and Auburn. But yeah, that Ole Miss performance that was definitely unacceptable.
Did you get to see Bo Nix on the final drive at all with South Carolina?
No, I didn't get a chance to see Bo Nix on that final drive. I just know Auburn right now is not playing very good football. I think Gus Malzahn, he tends to be on the hot seat every year.
Right.
But it really seems like his seat is getting warmer, week by week. It really seems like Bo Nix hasn't, turned the corner and actually, become a better quarterback. I know they lost a lot of pieces on that team on both sides of the ball to the draft last year. But once again, it's Auburn. You just expect them to kind of reload and kind of have that talent, which they do, but they're just not playing at a high elite level right now. So this is a tough game. One thing that I'm gonna lean on this game is the over. I'm comfortable with taking the over. It's pretty much a toss up who wins the game, but I think a lot of points is going to be scored. So give me the over in this one.
Yeah, you got Auburn as 3-point favorite, which is good for minus 115, minus 155 on the money line, and the over is at 7. The over under is at 70.5. The spread, I have no idea. Mississippi. I was starting to buy in on Ole Miss a little bit after the Alabama performance. You let me down against Arkansas last week. I'll take Auburn in the money line on that. Even though Bo Nix, I got some concerns there. He doesn't seem to trust his arm, Rob. That last drive, I would highly recommend going back and watching that because he made some very poor decisions. He uses his athleticism to get him down the field, but the last few plays there, it seemed like he just wasn't totally aware of what was going on, and he's a little skittish on throwing the ball late, it felt like. So he needs to figure that out. I know at one point Seth Williams and Bo Nix were chirping at each other on the sideline during that game. It was a little bit frustrating at South Carolina last week. All right, let's move on. Let's stay in the noon hour. What a noon slate we have this college football Saturday. Oklahoma, I feel like there's more games at noon than there was all last weekend, man. You didn't miss much last weekend, Rob, during your conference. You didn't miss much. Oklahoma, minus 7.5 or minus 7-point favorite, even minus 240 on the money line, and the total is 59.5 against TCU. These are two teams I really hate betting on both of them here, but Oklahoma, they did find a way to pull it out against Texas. Give them credit there. TCU, they've kind of been up and down this season. I'm going to trust Oklahoma. Go with the Sooners on the money line here. How about you, Rob?
Yeah, once again, you have Lincoln Riley versus Gary Patterson. So it means great offense versus great defense. And I know, the narrative surrounding the Big 12 is that they don't play defense. But TCU does. And, they might give up a lot of points, but, they are aggressive on the defense side of the ball. But once again, I think Oklahoma is going to turn this thing around. Spencer Rattler, I think he kind of got his confidence back when he got benched and he got back in the game. He kind of led him to a victory. So I'm really going to take Oklahoma on the money line in this one. But I do think TCU, plays a decent game and keep it close.
Temple goes to Memphis at noon on ESPN Plus. UTEP Charlotte noon ESPN Plus. Florida State at Louisville noon ESPN3. Rutgers at Michigan State noon Big Ten Network. Greg Schiano and Mel Tucker make their debuts in that one. Southern Miss goes to Liberty at 1 p.m. ESPN3. Tulane goes to UCF 2 p.m. ESPN2. FAU goes to number 22 Marshall at 2:30. Rob, I included this game more just to call out that Marshall is ranked. Good for Marshall. But they've won every game by double digits so far. At FAU, this is only their second game. They've had a bunch of games canceled. Marshall's minus 17 on the spread, minus 850 on the money line, and the total is at 51 even for the over-under. Hey, FAU, they've had a bunch of games postponed, but they had 27 members of the program, including 18 players, test positive for COVID-19 during the week leading up to the October 10th game against Southern Miss. So 38 members of the program would have missed the Golden Eagles game due to contact tracing, but he expects to field enough players. Willie Taggart, head coach Willie Taggart, expects to field enough players for Saturday's game against Marshall, and that comes from Kobe Price from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Hey, listen, Rob, we've seen other teams deal with this COVID situation. Virginia Tech went in shorthanded. They handled NC State early on in the ACC season. This Marshall team seems pretty good, though. I think even at full strength, FAU would have their hands full in this one. This is division rival, though. They're used to seeing each other. I think the money line at minus 850, it's like you said, the juice isn't, there's not enough juice for the squeeze there. The over-under, 51 seems attainable to me. So I'm just going to go, I think that is attainable, but I do like Marshall at minus 17 because I think FAU, it's only their second game. Marshall seems to be rolling, and they're winning by double digits anyway. So I think Marshall can get it done at minus 17.
Yeah. Once again, I love this Marshall team right now. And just looking at the stats, Marshall is 6-1 all time versus FAU and has won 2 in a row in the series. So I think Marshall is rolling right now. And you mentioned, the COVID situation with the FAU program. I'm not confident in taking Marshall on a double-digit spread, but one thing I am confident in is taking the over. I do think Marshall comes out with the victory, but I'm just more comfortable in taking the over in this one, Nick.
Over at 51. All right. Let's go. Alabama, Tennessee, 3:30 CBS. Tennessee just got flattened last week. It was ugly. I talked about it on Sunday's show, the Monday release show, where I think the Vols, they need to go to their running backs over and over and over again. They need to trust the offensive line. Jarrett Garantano needs to run the ball a little more than he does. And I think if you go almost like a poor man's Baltimore Ravens style offense, that's going to benefit Tennessee. However, all those suggestions applied when you're not playing Alabama. I don't think there's anything Tennessee's going to do. Roll Tide in this one. Alabama, let's just add another big spread that I'm taking this week. You got Alabama minus 21.5, minus 1,600 on the money line, and the total is at 66. Give me the Tide minus 21.5, and I don't even need to think about it that much.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't necessarily need to think about this one that much. Give me the Tide with the points. They just have too much offensive power. Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Mac Jones is playing tremendous ball, and
Awesome.
Najee Harris is actually, is actually putting on for scouts and for GMs on the next level, actually, catching the ball out the backfield. So I tell you what, this Alabama team is on a mission. It just seems like them and Clemson is destined to match up, in the national championship game. And in order to get there, they have to continue this momentum. So I think Alabama does. So give me Alabama with the points in this one all day. Roll Tide.
Oh, good. More Alabama Clemson, just what we are all dying for. Hey, look, I came up with this comparison this weekend watching Najee Harris. Do you think Najee Harris is like a transformer of all of Nick Saban's running backs at Alabama? He's got pieces of all of them in one package.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that, analysis of his play. Especially with him, opening up and actually catching the ball out the backfield a little bit more. It really seems like, we know he's the tough physical guy, but it just really seems like, he can make that one cut and kind of bounce to the outside and, outrun the defense. But now he's working on catching the ball out the backfield. So it really seems like, he's all of those backs that Nick Saban has kind of like rolled up in one, and it bodes well because he was a high, recruit guy coming out of high school, 5-star, and he's kind of living up to the bill this year. We know what he did last year against South Carolina with that run where he hurdled the one guy, he stiff armed one guy, and he kind of like scored all on one play. So we know the talent that he possesses, and it seems like he's putting it all together this season.
The quote number 3 unquote Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They travel to Pittsburgh. All right, so the top 3 teams in the country this week, you're telling me, are Alabama, Clemson, and Notre Dame. Which one of those 3s don't belong, Robert?
Give me Notre Dame. I don't think
Is
Notre
there a
Dame
question?
belongs. Yeah, I don't.
It's
I don't think
embarrassing to
Notre
even
Dame
mention them.
belongs in that top 3.
No.
However, I mean the one thing they're doing is they're winning. So as long as they win,
Cool.
you know,
So is Coastal Carolina. Let's not rank them number 3 though. Like, I mean, like this, it's such. I've never been more sure that a team is a fraud than Notre Dame this year, and somehow they're 11-point favorite going into Pittsburgh here, minus 430 on the money line. Over under is set at 43. Rob, enlighten me. What are folks seeing in the Irish to keep bumping them up the polls? I know that Pac-12 and Big Ten aren't playing. I know Ohio State's going to take that spot in a couple weeks, a week or two here. But like, what are we doing with this number 3 ranking for Notre Dame right now?
I mean, once again, it's the brand name. Notre Dame is the big brand name. So as long as Notre Dame can rack up wins, they're gonna be in that playoff. That playoff talk. So with that being said, I do think Notre Dame is a fraud. I don't think they're as good as their number 3 ranking suggests. But once again, just like I said, Notre Dame is the big brand name, and there's a lot of Notre Dame fans out there. So if they can keep racking up the wins, then they're gonna stay up high in the polls, and that's just what you have to deal with, especially with that Notre Dame program.
Give me Pittsburgh on the money line. I don't need your 11 points. I'm taking the Panthers in an upset this weekend.
Wow, that's. I'm not going that far and taking Pittsburgh in the upset, but I will take Pittsburgh to cover. I think Kenny Pickett, he can get the job done. He can keep his team and the guys close to Notre Dame. And I just haven't seen, elite play from Ian Book. And until I do, I'm gonna take, the spread with the other team if they're giving Notre Dame double-digit spread. So give me Pittsburgh all day with the double-digit spread in this one.
All right, Rob. I know I've been tough on Notre Dame, but I will give them credit on one area. They have been playing good defense.
Yeah, you're right about that. They have been playing good defense, but once again, for a number 3 ranking, I think you kind of have to do more than play good defense. I think you have to play, good on both sides of the ball. And just like I said before, Ian Book just he hasn't been playing to that elite level. And until he does, I really think this Notre Dame team is not a top 5 team. And we shall see when they play Clemson. But right now, I do think they get the win against Pitt, but I think Pitt covers in this one. But Ian Book has to step it up, and that Notre Dame offense has to step it up as well.
All right, let's move to the Big 12, Oklahoma State and Stillwater. Now, I'm going to say this, regardless of what games you're personally excited to watch this weekend, in general, you might not be watching one of the best games. I think that these are the 2 of the best games this weekend, are maybe the 2 that the average fan is not the most excited about. Iowa State at Oklahoma State does not generate a ton of excitement on the average year-to-year basis, but the number 17 Cyclones and the number 12 Oklahoma State Cowboys are getting together, and this one is a big one. All right, you got Texas and Oklahoma. We're in October, and Texas and Oklahoma, boom, already semi out of the race with 2 losses. They might be able to climb back in, but the winner of this one, Iowa State sitting at 3-0 in the Big 12, Oklahoma State sitting at 2-0 in the Big 12. Oklahoma State very much in the playoff hunt too. Like the winner of this one's going to be in control of the Big 12. So this is a massive, massive, massive game in Stillwater. 3:30 Fox. I know it's going to be the one I'm probably tuned into the most, at least while it gets going, to see how it goes. Oklahoma State minus 3.5 point favorite, minus 165 in the money line. The over under is at 52. Seems like kind of a low over under for this one, Rob, for a Big 12 game. But before I make my pick, I want to hear what you think, because in my opinion, doesn't this feel like a spot where both of these teams should choke?
I mean, once again, Oklahoma State, this is the first game they're going to play in 3 weeks. I mean, the opening week they had against Tulsa, they kind of really struggled in that one. Spencer Sanders, the quarterback, went down, and he missed the last 2 games against West Virginia and Kansas. But once again, you play Tulsa, which was a tough out, and West Virginia and Kansas, they kind of rolled over those two. But this Iowa State team is pretty good, and they have a quarterback that might be able to play on the next level, Brock Purdy. So one thing that I am comfortable in taking is the over in this one. But just like you said, this probably is going to be the game where one of these two teams is going to choke, and the momentum might carry over in the next couple of weeks, and they kind of play themselves out of the Big 12 championship game. But we shall see moving forward. But Oklahoma State, I'm not comfortable in taking, the spread or the money line in this one. But just like you said, it is a low over 52. So give me the over in this one. I feel like I'm comfortable in taking over the 52.
I'm with you. I hate agreeing with you so much. We've been agreeing a lot today, but I'm gonna go with the over as well because I don't trust either one of these teams with this spread. So it's like I'm waiting for this. Feels like the spot where they're both supposed to choke in a big spot. We're not used to seeing one of these teams take command of the Big 12 late in October. We're not used to that. All right. 3:30 FS1 Penn State, Indiana. The Nittany Lions travel to Bloomington. They're 6.5-point favorites still. Minus 230 on the money line, and the total is at 59. Rob, I read where running back Journey Brown could be out potentially for the season, but it sounds like he's at least out. Like obviously if he's out for the season, potentially he's going to miss the opener. But I think the Hoosiers could be frisky in this one. Maybe it's our guy Jeremy putting something in my brain about Indiana. He loves the Hoosiers. I mean, I think he thinks the Hoosiers are going about 9-1 this year. So he loves those Hoosiers. He thinks they're going to be a tough out at home. I've seen a lot from Indiana to say he's got a good point on that. I think that Penn State could absolutely be tough. The over-under, though, it's a little high for me at 59. And at the end of the day, I do think Penn State's going to win. So I'm just going to settle for Penn State on the money line with this one.
Yeah, just like you said, it is a high under in 59. I know that the Nittany Lions will be without Michael Parsons because he opted out. And just like you mentioned, Journey Brown due to medical concerns. But once again, I think James Franklin and this team has a lot of talent. So they should overcome the two losses of Journey Brown and Michael Parsons. But I really think, this under is going to hit. I mean, I know, Indiana has some offensive talent on their side of the ball. But once again, I think opening Big Ten game, a lot of jitters, not a lot of time, practice time. So just it's probably going to be sloppy play between the two until they kind of, get their bearings underneath them. So give me the under in this one. I'm definitely going to take the under to 59 in this one, Nick.
All right, gotcha for under 59. All right, let's finish out the 3:30 hour here. You got Virginia Tech going to Wake Forest, 3:30, ESPN3, Middle Tennessee State at Rice, 3:30, ESPN3, Houston at Navy, 3:30, CBS Sports Network, Baylor at Texas, 3:30, ESPN, Iowa at Purdue, 3:30, Big Ten Network, Georgia State at Troy, 4 o'clock, ESPNU, Georgia Tech at BC, 4 p.m. ACC Network, Chattanooga at Western Kentucky, 4 p.m. ESPN3. Kentucky goes to Mizzou at 4 p.m. on the SC Network. Interested to see how both those teams play after a nice win by Kentucky and a good win a couple weeks ago by Mizzou against LSU. West Virginia goes to Texas Tech, 5:30, ESPN2. South Carolina goes to LSU. We normally be picking that game, but this week there's a better game in this time slot here. So we're going to get to that in 1 second. ULM goes to South Alabama, 7 p.m. ESPN3. Utah State goes to Boise State. Welcome to college football, Boise State. We missed you. FS1, Wyoming at Nevada. CBS Sports Network, 7 p.m. And at 7:30 p.m., Michigan goes to Minnesota. The Wolverines are 3-point favorites, minus 150 on the money line, and the over-under is set at 54.5. Rashad Bateman's back for Minnesota. Tanner Morgan's back for the Gophers. Michigan's breaking in a new QB, Joe Melton, after struggling for parts of last year on offense. Why is it that I want to pick Minnesota, Rob, but I'm going to pick Michigan on the money line? Why can't I give her the hump there?
I don't know, Nick. I can't help you out on that one, but this is one pick that I won't agree with you on. I'm gonna go Minnesota on the money line on this one. I know the Gophers program had won 11 games last year, and I think they continue to build on that momentum. And the reason why I don't want to pick Michigan in this one is because it seems like it's so much surrounding that program. I read about the stay at home, the stay at place order that's going out in Michigan. But one group that is not affected is the football team. But once again, just like you mentioned, Tanner Morgan and Rashad Bateman are back. We know Rashad Bateman opted out early in the year, but he's back. That's Tanner Morgan's favorite weapon right there. And if Minnesota can stop the run game of Michigan, I think they can pull off this win. So I'm confident in saying PJ Fleck continues on the momentum for the 2019 season and opens up with the win against Michigan. So give me Minnesota on the money line.
Mini money. All right. Michigan, that would be a tough way to open. Losing to Minnesota, a tough way to open. Great matchup, though, in week one. Good way to welcome the Big Ten back. All right, Hawaii goes to Fresno State at 7:30. Maryland at Northwestern, 7:30. Big Ten Network. Let's see if that Wildcats offense has any life this year, unlike in 2019. Virginia, team that had plenty of life in 2019, not looking so good this year. Going to the number 11 Miami Hurricanes, 8 p.m. ACC Network. The Canes are 12.5-point favorites, minus 460 on the money line, and the total is at 58. Rob, Miami was ugly last week on offense. They weren't, maybe ugly is a strong word, but they weren't crisp. It wasn't the Miami we've seen a couple other times this year, but they still put up 31 and they covered against Pitt. It gives me good vibes with the Hurricanes here. UVA, they opened with a nice win over Duke before getting smoked by Clemson, NC State, and then Wake, which, I mean, absolute head scratcher there for me. Miami, I'm starting to trust them because they have the offense now. I like De'Aaron King. This is a De'Aaron King pick for me. I'm going to go Canes big in this one. Miami covers 12.5. And because I just love double-digit favorites this week, apparently.
Yeah, I'm that's one thing I do agree with you. I'm right on board with that. I think Miami kind of, that Clemson loss was tough on them, and it kind of showed, last week against Pitt, where they did look a little flat, but once again, just like you said, they still put up, 30 plus points. And I think they're going to put up enough points this week to cover the spread. So give me Miami with the points in this one, Nate.
Louisiana Tech goes to UTSA, Texas San Antonio, 8 p.m. ESPNU. And this is the second game. I referenced it with Iowa State and Oklahoma State. Might not be your two favorite teams. One of the most important games of the day, though. Cincinnati goes to SMU. And the number 9 Bearcats, this is big time AAC action. We're a pro AAC podcast, right, Rob?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're down with the AAC. I think it's a sneaky underrated conference. You got a lot of good football at the top there. But I think this year, I mean, I think they're not splitting into divisions this year. I'm looking at it right now. They're not splitting into divisions. So this game's extra critical. So everyone is going to head to head in this one. And SMU is currently 2-0 in conference. Cincinnati's 1-0. SMU, though, played 5 games. 3 of those 5 wins, they've been one-score games, Rob. Bearcats are 3-0, but I would really describe their wins as workmanlike, which kind of fits who they are anyway. We know both teams are clearly talented, but I worry that this is one of those games where the matchup looks great on paper, and then one of these teams just shows up and has a bad day. The spread is SMU is favored by 2.5 points, minus 130 on the money line. Over-unders at 56. Cincinnati's defense is good enough that it makes me want to avoid that over-under. But I'm really split on who to pick on this, Rob. So I'm going to lean to the Bearcats because I think that they're ready to break through. So I'm going to take Cincinnati on the money line, despite them being the underdogs. They're plus 110 on the money line. I'll take the Bearcats money line.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. This game is definitely, it should be one of the better games of the week, and it's definitely a hard pick for me. I'm actually probably going to lean on taking the over. Both teams have impressive offenses that can put up points. I know the Mustangs kind of been playing with fire lately with a few close calls to pull off their victories late in games. So I'm not comfortable taking SMU, but I'm just going to lean towards the over on this one. I think Shane Buechele on the SMU side is definitely going to throw the ball around and put up some points. And the same thing with Cincinnati and their quarterback. So I'm definitely going to lean toward the high scoring game on this one, and I'm going to go with the over.
All right, Texas State goes to BYU at 10:15 ESPN. Put a bookmark on that for a second, Rob, while I read out these last two games. UNLV at San Diego State, 10:30 CBS Sports Network. Air Force at San Jose State, 10:30 FS1. First off, welcome back, Football After Dark. I know it's not Pac-12, but I saw last week, I talked about this on Sunday with Jeremy. Alex Kirshner, he's one of my favorite writers. I like a lot of the stuff he does. He put out a tweet, and the guy's always, he's just funny. He puts out goofy stuff all the time, but like he actually started talking about BYU to the playoff. And at first I laughed when I read the tweet, but I got to thinking, are we buying in the Big 12? Let's talk through it here for a second, because I did this with Jeremy the other day. I want to see what you think. In the Big 12, your playoff contenders right now are Oklahoma State, Iowa State, and Kansas State. Iowa State's already got that loss to Louisiana. So I don't think you're making the playoff with the loss to Louisiana under your belt. So realistically, we're talking about, well, Kansas State, they lost to Arkansas State too, right? So really, Oklahoma State is probably your only for real playoff contender that's still alive in the Big 12. Would you agree with that statement?
I do. I definitely agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the Big 10. How many for real playoff contenders are in the Big 10 outside of Ohio State?
Just one, and that's going to be Ohio State with me.
All right, so let's talk about the Pac-12. Probably not playing till late, but you know what? I'll even give you one Pac-12 school. Name a Pac-12 school that's known to make the playoffs. It's not USC. Ooh. It's probably not Utah. Is it Oregon? Maybe, right? So, but Oregon probably the only for real contender in the Pac-12, right?
Yep.
All right. So let's go to the SEC. Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and now you got to say Texas A&M. I mean, certainly not LSU. LSU's not in that. Auburn's not in that. Texas A&M, they lost to Alabama already. Are we thinking Texas A&M's going to sneak back in that hunt? I don't think so. So you're probably between already Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, realistically. And based on what we've seen from the Florida defense, I think we could scratch the Gators from a playoff hunt. And Georgia, based on what we saw at Tuscaloosa last Saturday, probably scratch Georgia. So you're probably looking at only Alabama out of the SEC, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. So if you got Alabama out of the SEC, Ohio State out of the Big 10, and Oregon out of the Pac-12, are you confident that Oklahoma State's going to be that fourth team?
I'm not confident in Oklahoma State. Once again, we've seen Oklahoma State put together, a string of wins, but the games that, they should win, they kind of slip up and choke on. So I'm definitely not confident in Oklahoma State being that fourth team.
And I agree with you. And so let me read off BYU's remaining schedule here. Texas State, Western Kentucky, at Boise State, first North Alabama versus San Diego State. If you beat Boise State on the road and you beat Houston on the road and you dusted Navy 55-3, and Navy's currently sitting at the top of the AAC, who are you putting in the playoff over an undefeated BYU?
Wow, that's going to be tough. I really like this BYU team. I think it's a solid team on both sides of the ball. But once again, this is a weird year for college football. If anybody gets in over BYU, if they remains undefeated, probably, two SEC schools.
But we already talked through that. That can't happen.
It can't, but for some reason, I think it might. With the undefeated BYU team.
Only undefeated. There's only one undefeated SEC school. It's Alabama. Everyone else has a loss.
I don't know,
You're
man.
incredulous.
It's tough right now. I don't think BYU garnishes that enough respect in order for them to gain a playoff spot, even if they're undefeated.
Okay, but I'm saying this: who is more worthy? Who would be more worthy? Because Georgia, let's say Georgia beats Florida, right? Based on what we saw in Tuscaloosa the other night, probably going to happen. Georgia beats Florida. Alabama beats Georgia in a rematch in the SEC title game based on all of history and my brain and my eyeballs. Like, that's one undefeated team. Do you really see Texas A&M running the table and being that second team out of the SEC? I don't.
No, I don't.
No. So Florida's not going to run it. Texas A&M's not going to run it. Georgia's not going to run it. That eliminates the second team from the SEC. Penn State's
You're right.
Ohio State head up. But like I'm saying, undefeated BYU is a serious playoff contender. We actually have to wake up to that.
I think me and you acknowledge just the fact that, an undefeated BYU should be a contender for, a playoff spot. But on a national level, how many people are agreeing with us on that one, Nick?
Normally, I would say yes, but that's why I'm laying out the case. Find me the team that you would put in ahead of them. SMU or Cincinnati?
No. I'm going BYU. If I have to roll the dice with SMU and Cincinnati, I'm going BYU all day.
And you're not going to have a second undefeated ACC team because even if Notre Dame plays Clemson in November here, right? The only way you'd have two ACC teams is if somehow Notre Dame pulled the upset of the century and beat Clemson and then turned around and lost to Clemson in the ACC title game. That's the only way you're getting two ACC teams. But it would require Notre Dame beating Clemson. So we don't see that happening, right?
Yeah, we definitely don't see that happening.
So wrap your head around it. I mean, if you're a BYU fan, you better be rooting for Iowa State to take down Oklahoma State. You better be rooting for that this weekend. Knock Oklahoma State out of the way. Because I guarantee you, undefeated BYU, Iowa State runs a table. I don't care if they have one loss. Their one loss was to Louisiana. Does a team that lost to Louisiana deserve to be in the playoff over an undefeated BYU? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, it's not that crazy. So Kirshner, I laughed at the tweet, and then I stopped and thought about the tweet, and I went, oh my God, he's got a point. He's got a point. Anyway, that's not normally what we do on our gambling episodes, but I just wanted to walk through that scenario with you because I had to wrap my head around that on Saturday night going, oh my God, that could happen. So anyway.
It definitely can happen. And that is something that college fans has to wrap their heads around moving forward. Because I can see an undefeated BYU team being a, playoff contender, but we just have to wait and see what the committee is looking for in a COVID year. But I think BYU is worthy than any other team, especially at this point in the season right now.
All I'm saying is November 6th at 9:45 p.m. on FS1, BYU plays Boise State. That could be one of the key games of the college football season right there. And I think that's a Friday night, the 6th. I believe that's a Friday night. So big week coming up that weekend. Big week coming up that weekend. So we're a couple weeks away from BYU going to the blue turf and playing Boise. You go up on that blue turf and get a win. I think that'll give you some credibility if you don't have it already. Because I think people are already starting to buy into BYU a little bit. Maybe not as a playoff contender, but at least recognizing hey, number 12, yeah, sure, they've been pretty good. So anyway, that's my BYU rant. I'm going on too long. We'll move on. All right, we're on the NFL portion of today's Picks podcast. Excuse our BYU rant. It's just an interesting subject. Sorry about that again. All right, NFL time. Bye weeks this week. Indianapolis, Minnesota, Baltimore, and Miami. The Dolphins, they probably made the biggest headline, biggest splash of the week here. They announced they're going to start Tua. Tua's going to start. It's Tua time. Fitzpatrick goes to the bench. Robert, I find this move a little perplexing. I mean, I'm excited to see Tua as anyone. I'm excited as anyone to see Tua. He finally got some playing time this week, but I mean, it really was the true definition of mop-up duty. He didn't really do much, not like a lot of experience. But are you surprised to see this after Miami is 3-3 and they feel like they're making some progress? It feels like they're on a hot streak. Like, why are you messing with a good thing?
Yeah, I was actually surprised when I saw this breaking news come down the pipe. Ryan Fitzpatrick's been playing, exceptionally well. I think the chemistry between, the tight end and Preston Williams and Devontae Parker and just that offense as a whole. I think, Fitzpatrick kind of rallied the troops and he's been going out there and being an exceptional leader. So I thought this was definitely, it caught me off guard by, bringing Tua in after the bye week and kind of, giving the reins to Tua. I don't know how healthy he is. I know the medical team cleared him, whatever, but if it was me, if I was in the position, I would kind of let Fitzpatrick kind of, see this thing out and kind of get to some more mop-up duty late in games rather than throwing 2 passes against the Jets last week.
Do you find it extra surprising because Miami is sitting at 3-3, just a game behind Buffalo right now? They're ahead of the 2-3 Patriots, and they're well ahead of the Jets. The Jets aren't even a team this year, so you're basically in a 3-team race for the division right now, and you're right in the thick of it. And now's the time to put in the rookie with no experience whatsoever.
Yeah, that was definitely surprising for me. But I mean, Brian Flores, the head coach of the Dolphins, said, Tua is ready. So we shall see moving forward if Tua is ready and he's capable. But one thing that that's probably going to jump out to me is that say Tua, he loses his first game and he loses the second game. Do you go? You can't switch back to Fitzpatrick because it just really seems like you gave the keys to Tua moving forward. So switching back to Fitzpatrick, that will kind of undercut the decision of putting Tua in the first place. So I think it's a lot of things that can happen. But once again, I am excited to see what Tua brings to the table. I think the play of Justin Herbert probably accelerated this decision sooner than most would expect because Justin Herbert's been lighting it up. And, granted, like he was in the same boat as Tua. He didn't, have the injury that Tua had, but, he had a short, time to kind of learn the playbook and he kind of got through it in the fire early. So I think that kind of, went into the decision making, if you ask me there. But once again, I think Fitzpatrick is playing great football. I wouldn't have benched him. I would have kind of let him see this thing out. And he's just a tough guy. He's a stand-up guy. And he's a great leader for that organization and every team he's been on. So I kind of feel for Ryan Fitzpatrick in this one.
I don't worry about the chemistry on the team too much because Fitzpatrick, when Tua's put in, he's over there pumping up the fans and everything. And I mean, even if he, doesn't like the move, he's basically he seems like a guy that understands the business and he's going to support it and he's not going to cause a rift in the locker room. But I think you're right. I think they've been so successful that it's kind of like a weird time to put him in. Like maybe you'd like to see one of those Fitzpatrick games where he throws about like 5 picks and then Tua comes in and you can at least come in off of that note. But man, team's cooking for the first time in a long time. I will give Brian Flores and this staff the benefit of the doubt, though. They seem to be on point with a lot of their moves. Do you trust the Dolphins coaching staff, Rob?
I do trust the Dolphins coaching staff, but once again, I think you have to let Ryan Fitzpatrick play this one out. I mean, he's one of the toughest quarterbacks that we have in this league. Just gives himself up for the team, and you get those ups and downs with Fitzpatrick, but once again, he's just been playing lights out. And it just seems like the team has rallied around him this year, and he's getting a great running game with Myles Gaskins out the backfield that's been helping him. So I think this Miami Dolphins team has been rolling. I think they kind of can push to make the playoff berth. But once again, with Tua making that transition, that's to be decided now. But I think, with Ryan Fitzpatrick at the helm, they could have kind of made some noise like they've been doing. But once again, I do trust Brian Flores and his coaching staff to make the right move. So we just have to have the wait and see approach in this one, Nick.
All right. I will say this. The Dolphins are a fun team with Fitzpatrick. They go to must-see TV with Tua. So I will be very plugged into watching Miami Dolphins football games with Tua at the helm. I'm very interested to see how he does. So, and you always got Fitzpatrick there, although you don't want to see Tua get his confidence shaken, but I don't know. Tua seems like a pretty chill guy. I don't think he's got a lot of confidence issues. So I think we're going to be all right in Miami, but it'll be interesting to see it. I'm looking forward to it. Interesting timing for sure. All right, let's start on the Thursday night game. You got the Giants and the Eagles in the NFC crap fest of the week here. -4.5. The Eagles are the favorites by -4.5 here. -240 on the money line, and the total is at 45. Hey, the Giants, they finally get in the W column with Joe Judge. They're kind of sneaky okay on defense, right? But the offense is still struggling. The Eagles, this is a must-win game. This was the game a few weeks ago when we were looking ahead on the schedule. This was the stretch of the schedule that I was hammering. This is time for the Eagles to make their move. It's time for the Eagles to show up and take care of business. I'm not sure I even trust them with the 4.5, even though I should. But the 240 on the money line seems a little bit low for me. So over under total, a little low for me, a little high for me with at 45 with that Giants offense. So I guess I'm kind of stuck here. We're taking the Eagles at -4.5, Rob.
Yeah, I'm gonna go opposite with you. I'm gonna actually take Giants with the points in this one.
Ooh.
I know the Eagles will be without the services of Miles Sanders and Zach Ertz. I think that is gonna hurt them. The struggles that Carson Wentz been having, those are two guys that he's been kind of relied on to make plays. But I think the Giants is a scrappy, feisty team, and I think they could pull off the win. But I'm more comfortable with the Giants with the points. So give me Giants with the 4.5.
Philly, I've put up with your crap all season. If you lose this one, I'm done defending you. I'm done giving you pep talks after every loss. This is it. Okay. So if Robert's right and the Giants come through on this, you and I are done for the season, Philadelphia. Okay. Just throwing it out there. Do you often make threats to entire cities, Rob?
No, I kind of lay off making threats to entire cities.
Especially Philadelphia.
Especially Philadelphia. So I'm not going to go there, but I just know they don't have two explosive players on their offense. That defense has been decimated since day one. So I really like the Giants with the points in this one.
If you don't have those two explosive players, there's almost no one you'd rather see coming into town more than the Giants. So they're not exactly going to run you off the field unless you have Dallas's defense. But that's another cheap shot at the NFC East. So I'll stop. I'll get out of the NFC East before I cause too much trouble here. We go to Sunday, Detroit at Atlanta. 1 p.m. on Fox. Nice win by the Falcons. Good bounce back. I know you probably weren't too happy with it up in Minnesota last week, but that's kind of what we've seen from Atlanta. We've seen them get out to leads, and they just haven't held it. We've seen moments of goodness from Atlanta this season, although they're screwing up my Trevor Lawrence prediction if they keep pulling that off. The Lions, they crushed the Jags last week. They look good. They finished the game, had no issues. I'm going to say that Atlanta was on the high end of where they were last week. I'm not quite buying yet, even though it looks sustainable. All right. So Atlanta's a 2-point favorite, -130 on the money line. The over-under's at 55. I'm going to take the Lions, though, straight up on the money line. I like Detroit in this one because I think Detroit, they're quietly kind of hanging around in the wild card race because the NFC East is so bad that if Detroit gets back to 3-3 this week, it's a really big win. So I think the Lions are going to be a little extra motivated this week.
Yeah, once again, this is another game that we disagree with, Nick. I'm definitely going to take the Falcons with the points. I think that offense has been, one of the better offense that we've seen, in the whole NFL this year. But once again, it just seems like they can't hold on to the lead. But I think they're going to put up points. We've seen a breakout performance from Julio Jones last week, and we know what Calvin Ridley has been doing all year. So once again, give me Falcons with the points. I think Matty Ice, throws the ball around and brings another win to the city of Atlanta. So I like the Falcons in this one. I think they ride the momentum for the win that they got last week, and it carries over to this week. So I'm taking the Falcons with the points in this one.
Oh, if you're right, then Atlanta, you could kiss Trevor goodbye. Because I'll tell you what, there's a couple teams out there that are going to struggle to get 2 wins this season. So you're either going to hang around the Trevor hunt or you're not. Although the more I'm thinking about it now, I think this Falcons team, they're going to bust out a couple more times this season. So maybe we're feeling more like a 4-12 for them, 5-11 after last week's performance. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, Cleveland goes to Cincinnati, 1 p.m. CBS. Rob, I finally got you on the Browns bandwagon. And then all I said last week during our picks episode was when you go to Pittsburgh, I'm not asking you to win in Pittsburgh because I know the history of the Browns well enough to not request that. But all I asked for was that they not lay the type of egg they laid against Baltimore. And what did they do last Sunday, Rob?
They laid a big egg, and I tell you, you were the one who got me on this Cleveland Brown bandwagon. And you know what? I'm not gonna hop off as of yet. I still got a little stock into this Cleveland Brown team. You know the pieces that they have on the offense side of the ball and the defense side of the ball. But I think that the game last week is just a testament that goes to show you how good the Pittsburgh Steelers really are when they're clicking on all cylinders on the offense side of the ball and the defense side of the ball. So I really don't fault the Cleveland Browns in this one. I really think, the Pittsburgh Steelers is a dark horse Super Bowl contender. So with that being said, I'm still going to stay on the bandwagon with the Cleveland Browns. I'm taking Cleveland Browns on the money line in this one, Nick.
So the Browns are 3.5-point favorites, minus 170 on the money line, 50.5 on the total. Hey, look, Joe Burrow made it interesting against Indianapolis last week, but we saw the Bengals. They kind of find ways to lose. Even no matter how good Joe Burrow is, they're going to find ways to lose. Pittsburgh was excellent last week. Cleveland, upcoming schedule, Rob. This is going to be a big game. You got to take care of it against the Bengals. But if you take care of it against the Bengals, do you realize they're coming off a 4-game winning streak before that loss in Pittsburgh? The Cleveland Browns had a 4-game winning streak. Let's not take that for granted, okay? For people who want to jump off and just crush Cleveland. You put together a 4-game winning streak, including wins at Dallas with Dak and against the Colts, which was a good head-to-head win there. But next week you got the Raiders, and then you got after the Raiders. If you take care of business against the Raiders and you take care of business against the Bengals, you got the Texans, Eagles, Jaguars for three weeks in a row. The last month of the season, unfortunately, you got the Titans, Ravens, and Steelers, but you also get the Giants and Jets mixed in there, so you're getting at least 2 wins in that last week of this, in the last month of the season. So you got a lot of easy games mixed in with a couple tough ones. So this Brown schedule, I think it's friendly enough to get them to 10 wins. I think the 10 wins get you to a playoff spot this year. I haven't been talking about Browns to the Super Bowl. I've been talking about simply the Browns as a playoff team. That's it. First round exit probably, but I think they're getting there. And Rob's staying on the bandwagon. I appreciate it. You got Cleveland on the money line. I'm going to take Cleveland covering the 3.5 in this one. Let's go to the game of the day. In my opinion, Pittsburgh goes to Tennessee. 2 5-0 teams here. Absolutely loved what I've seen from the Titans. They really, that was a nice win last week coming back. They're a 1-point favorite, minus 125 in the money line, and the total is 50.5. Rob, there was a pretty sweet play where Mike Vrabel, he sent the guy. Did you see late in the game when they're down, he sent the guy on the field on purpose to get a 12-minute on the field penalty to stop the clock and saved about 35 seconds?
Yeah, that was reminiscent of Bill Belichick. So I'm pretty sure, Bill Belichick coached him up on that one, but that was a great heads-up play from your head coach. But once again, I'm definitely on the Steelers bandwagon. I think, they're one of the most complete teams that we have in this league, especially on the offense side and the defense side of the ball. And it just seems like, that secondary is getting stronger week in and week out, with Joe Hayden on the outside and Minkah Fitzpatrick roaming around, getting pick sixes. So once again, give me Steelers on the money line in this one. I really think this is going to be a great game, but I think this Tennessee Titans, they've been playing out of their mind the last couple of weeks. I think it comes to an end. So I'm going to take the Steelers on the money line in this one.
Yeah, I like that pick, but I like the Titans too. This is a tough one for me, but I think the over-under at 50.5, I'm not sure why it's so low. I feel like both these teams are capable of scoring in chunks. And Tennessee, with the exception of that Denver game, they've been playing in pretty high-scoring games, and that Pittsburgh offense is fairly potent itself. So that 50.5, taking the over there, I feel like that's a pretty easy one sitting there. So if I don't have to pick the game and I get to take the over, all right, I'll jump on that all day, because I think this is going to be a whale game. And if I had to pick gun to my head, I do like the Titans in this one, but I'm going to stick with the 50.5 on the over. You got Pittsburgh on the money line, Rob. Carolina goes to New Orleans. The underestimated Carolina Panthers go to the Saints. The Saints coming off a bye week, 1 p.m. on Fox here. 7.5 point favorites in New Orleans, 370 on the money line, and it over unders at 51. I think I read where they're allowing fans in the Superdome again this weekend, limited attendance. So you'll have some people there, I think. 7.5, Rob. I'm a little nervous with that number with the Saints.
Yeah, I think, fans in the Superdome is kind of what the Saints team needed moving forward. And they're going to have, fans in the stands with limited capacity. So I think, Drew Brees and the team is going to feed off of that. And it's a tough loss for the Carolina Panthers last week. That was a loss that they could actually, won against the Chicago Bears. So I think they kind of gave that one away. And but I think the Saints team is, it's do or die for them. So right now is their rallying point where they have to rip off, a couple wins in a row to kind of, get their bearings underneath themselves and kind of make that push for a playoff in the Super Bowl contention. So give me the the Saints on the money line in this one. I think they win this one. I think, Carolina keeps it close, but at the end of the day, I think the Saints pull out the win. So give me Saints on the money line.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the same direction on this one too, because I like New Orleans to win. I just don't trust them with the 7.5. Not underestimating Carolina. That's more out of respect for Carolina. I think they're capable of hanging around in this one. All right, Buffalo, the Bills go to the Jets. 1 p.m. CBS. Buffalo is minus 13.5 point favorite, minus 750 on the money line, and the over under is at 45.5. I will take whoever is playing the Jets and the spread. And so this week it's the Bills. So I'll take Buffalo at minus 13.5. The Jets are just something awful to watch.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. Once again, I know the Bills had, a couple bad games. Josh Allen hasn't played well. But once again, the Jets is that team that you play to kind of get your swagger and your confidence back. So I think Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills get their confidence and swagger back against the Jets, just like a lot of other teams is going to do this year. So give me Bills in the 13.5. I'm comfortable with that. And if somehow the Jets cover, oh well. I think it's a great pick at the end of the day.
I think the Bills, this is obviously a must-win for them because they're playing the Patriots next week, which is really the key game on their schedule right now. But how are you feeling about the Bills? I know we were kind of talking about them in the group of Super Bowl teams. I think they definitely walked that back a little bit with the Titans and the Chiefs games, although it can't be easy to deal with those type of changes in the schedule either. I'm not making an excuse. I think realistically, their schedule was just kind of probably all out of whack in the last couple of weeks. So I guarantee you practices were a little weird. Like maybe things were a little out of sync and they just didn't handle it well. You didn't play terrible on defense against the Chiefs. You held the Chiefs to 26 points. That wasn't a bad performance on defense. And the Titans, they could be a good team. You didn't come out with your best stuff against the Titans. We could chalk that off to one game. But how are you feeling about Buffalo? I think it's pretty clear they're a playoff team. How are you feeling about them getting out of the AFC after watching what they did against the Titans and Chiefs?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty hard for them, especially if Josh Allen is going to be the leading rusher. And I mean, I know you drafted Zach Moss and you have Devin Singletary back there. I think the Buffalo Bills need to rely on that running game a little bit more, especially when Josh Allen, can't hit his targets and it seems like he's struggling a little bit. I think you want to rely on that running game, and it just seems like Buffalo is really putting the ball in Josh Allen's hand to make a play, whether it's with his legs or with his arms. So I think a little bit more of Josh Allen running. And more of the running backs running will bode well for the Buffalo Bills moving forward. So I just need to see that running game kind of get unleashed a little bit. And I think Buffalo is right back in the thick of things because we know the type of caliber that defense can play. So once again, I think Buffalo is right there. But just like you said, playing those games with Tennessee and Kansas City with the schedule being out of whack, I think that would be pretty hard for any team. So I think, Buffalo kind of get their confidence and swagger back this week, and moving forward, we're going to see the Buffalo that we saw early in the year.
Am I disrespecting Buffalo if we do this, if we put it in tiers? So the top tier in the AFC, I think the standalone, I think it's Kansas City. I don't think there's anybody on their level when they're clicking at 100%. The next tier, sorry, 1 second. The next tier, I would go Pittsburgh and Tennessee. And If you want to add Baltimore there, you can. I know they probably should be there, but for argument's sake, we'll include them. So Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Baltimore on that second tier. I don't think Buffalo makes the cut on that. I would group Buffalo more along the lines of on the high end of Buffalo, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Las Vegas. I'd put them at the top of that list on tier 3. Is that being too harsh, or do you think they belong on that second tier?
I don't think that's too harsh. Once again, you want to see Buffalo kind of have one of those, those dominant wins against a good team. I know they got the win against, the Rams, but once again, that was a game that, they kind of let the Rams get back into it. They didn't, they had them down, but they didn't step on their necks. So you want to see the Bills have a complete game, from kickoff to the end. So I think you're fair in that assessment. We're putting the Bills on that third tier, behind the Chiefs, the Steelers, and the Ravens and the Titans.
Yeah, I'm not buying them on the high level anymore. I think they're kind of starting to settling in on that third tier there. All right. That being said, if they smack the Jets this week and get a win against the Patriots following week, you're in great shape, Buffalo. Great shape. All right, let's go to Washington. The Washington football team hosts the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not seeing any spread on this, and I'm not seeing any money line on Bovada. The total set at 46, though. I'm not sure how to explain that. That's a little unusual. It literally just says 0 for the spread on that. So I guess there's maybe some issues that came out with this game, but I mean, either way, I'm not sure I'd want to pick either one of these teams anyway, and I'll probably just take the under at 46. So on the over-under at 46, Rob, that's our only options.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we know the offense, the Dallas Cowboys offense can put up points. So I can see this game going over. I think, the offensive line play last week against the Cardinals was atrocious for the Cowboys. Andy Dalton really didn't have time to throw. But when he did, he looked really well throwing to, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and Gallup. So I really think this offense kind of gets back on track. I know Zeke took the blame, especially with the 2 fumbles that he had last week. So I think Zeke runs hard, and I think Andy Dalton uses that to his advantage to play action off that and take some shots down the field. So once again, I like the over on this one. I think this Washington team, other than the Jets, this Washington team is scrappy, but they really don't have a lot of talent as well. So if the Cowboys can't win this one, then I think their season is done. So this is definitely a must win for the Cowboys.
Well, luckily you're in the NFC East, so you could really lose a lot more, and you'll be in the hunt still. You'll be in the hunt.
Yeah, I mean, but if you're a Cowboys fan, and do you really want to lose to the Washington football team?
No, but on the other hand, if Washington wins, there'll be 3 teams with 2 wins, and then at the top of the NFC East. So none of these teams are doing anything long term. I'm just talking about winning a division. You're still in the hunt.
Yeah. It's the NFC East, so everyone's still in the hunt right now.
Yeah. The Giants can be tied for the lead in the division if they win on Thursday. So they're all there. Hey, Washington, the football team, they're saying they're going to need another full season under the football team moniker. Are you kidding me? Can we just pick a team name? Like, let's get a bunch of 8-year-olds in a classroom and knock this thing out in like one day. What are we doing? Why do we need so long to develop this? How long does it take for a marketing team to come up with a team name?
Yeah, I think you're right about that one, Nick. I mean, hopefully if they can rattle off some wins, maybe that new team name will come sooner than later. So we shall see in that one. But yeah, just staying with this game, I really think the Cowboys is going to put up points like they've been doing all year. So I'm really comfortable with taking the over in this one. So just like I said before, give me the over.
You've explained that so thoroughly that I'm almost regretting taking the under with the defense that Dallas has, and I almost want to switch my pick, but I'm going to stick with the under. I'm going to stick with it just because I'm going to be stubborn. All right, Green Bay at Houston. The Packers are 3.5-point favorites. -190 on the money line. The total is at 57. I'm not sure if people were just encouraged by the fact that Deshaun Watson seems to have been let loose and that the Texans play the Titans very well, or that they're discouraged that the Packers look so bad against the Bucks after a good start in that game. They got flattened. But 3.5 points, I mean, are we giving Houston a big home field advantage here or something? Like, I'll take Green Bay in the 3.5 all day on that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I really think this line is kind of low. I know, the Packers suffered their first loss against Tampa Bay. You mentioned that, but once again, it's one of those games where you're playing a really good team in the Buccaneers, and you lose. Aaron Rodgers didn't have his best day, but at the end of the day, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's going to bounce back. So I'm all over the Packers on this one. I really think the Packers is going to cover. So give me the Packers with the 3.5.
Yeah, piece of cake. Seattle at Arizona, -3.5 for the Seahawks. -180 on the money line. 56 is the total. This is a 4:00 game on Fox. This is actually a little tougher than the 3.5. I'm tempted to go Seattle, but I don't know with Arizona. Arizona, I like what they've been doing, so I'm gonna stay away from the pick here, and I'm gonna go. The over-unders at 56. I don't really love that either. I need to think on this pick, Robert. But while we're setting it up here, this is a pretty pivotal matchup in the NFC West here. The Seahawks are well within control, but the Cardinals, who knows what the Rams are after watching that 49ers game last week? But the Cardinals seem to be like the next biggest threat right now. The Cardinals win this game; they're just a game out in the division. So, absolutely massive game for Arizona here. Do you think that Cliff Kingsbury's got enough to pull this one off?
I think he does. Kyler Murray didn't have the greatest game throwing the ball last week, but we did see him, run around and, like a little human joystick, someone controlling him. And it's hard to bring that guy down once he pulls that ball on the read option. But once again, I think Russell Wilson is having an MVP year, and I've been riding, the Seahawks and Russell Wilson all season long. So I'm gonna stick with Pete Carroll and the Seahawks in this one. So give me the Seahawks on the spread.
Seahawks -3.5. I'm gonna settle for Seattle, but I'm gonna take them on the money line. I'm taking them on the money line. Listen to the next few games for Arizona: Miami, Buffalo, at Seattle, versus New England, versus the Rams. And that's after this Seahawks matchup, by the way. So their next 6 games: Seahawks, Dolphins, Bills, Seahawks on the road, Patriots, Rams. Woof. That's a tough stretch right there.
Yeah, that's going to be tough sledding moving forward, and that's and with those games we're going to see the caliber of Kyler Murray and company, and if Cliff Kingsbury can actually be, if Arizona can be a legitimate, playoff contender moving forward, especially with those tough games that's coming up.
All right, let's go out to the AFC West. The Chiefs and the Broncos, 425 CBS. The Chiefs are 10-point favorites, -500 on the money line. The total is at 46. Rob, I'm going to take the over in this one. Despite what we saw out of Denver last week, I'm more puzzled. I'm not taking the 46 because of the Broncos offense. So I think I'm more puzzled and intrigued by that win in New England than anything. What did we watch in that game?
I think we just watched, a Patriots team that, once again, we talked about the Buffalo Bills and those games getting postponed or getting pushed back. I think it's the same thing. We can say the same thing for the New England Patriots. Mm-hmm. And once again, that was Cam Newton's first, action back since the positive test from COVID. So, I kind of write that game off for the Patriots. But moving forward, I really think they're, a solid team, especially with anytime you have Bill Belichick coaching. Cam Newton's been doing fairly well this season. So I think, they're the team that we think they're going to be, and they're still in contention to win that division. But just going back to the Chiefs, anytime you have a Chiefs over at 40, 46 or 45 or anything in that range, they can hit that number by themselves. So I'm definitely rolling with the over on this one.
Yeah, And you like what you saw from Drew Lock last week coming back?
Coming back, I know, it's his first action back, but once he get a couple games under his belt, then I'll be able to kind of give him a fair
Okay,
assessment.
that's fair.
But once again, they did play without the services of Melvin Gordon. Philip Lindsay actually had a pretty good game. But once again, I'm definitely rolling with the over in this one. I think the Chiefs is going to win, but I'm just more comfortable taking the over in this one, Nick.
Okay, another team that absolutely stumped me last week, the San Francisco 49ers. They travel to New England to play the Patriots at 4:25 on CBS. There's no way San Francisco plays as good as they played on Sunday, and there's no way New England plays as bad as they played on Sunday. The Patriots are 2-point favorites here, minus 130 on the money line. The total is at 43.5. I sold my San Francisco stock perhaps a little too heavily because Jimmy G, they played pretty well last week. They looked like they had things cooking against the Rams, and maybe it was a little tough on the 49ers. Maybe the season's not going to be as bad as I think. I still think that division is just tough, and I think that they're going to get beat up still. You're coming to the East Coast. I don't see Bill Belichick's team playing two bad games, like very bad games in a row. And it seems like this is going to be the first semi-normal week in New England in a long time. Must-win game for the Patriots. Trust Belichick and the Patriots at home, even if it's the new Patriots. I'm taking New England in the points at -2.
Yeah, I know you went with New England in the points in this one, Nick, but once again, I'm not too confident in picking either team. I'm more so confident in picking the over. We had the 49ers are at 3-3 right now, and it seems like, Jimmy G is playing with a chip on his shoulder with getting benched and all the, talk surrounding his play, this season. And once again, I think Cam Newton bounces back. So I'm more comfortable in taking the over than picking this game. So I'm gonna just stay off the money line and the spread and just pick the over under on this one. I think this one goes over.
Yeah, I keep an eye on this one. Very interested to see how both these teams respond after a difficult week for really it's been a difficult 3 weeks for New England, and then nice bounce back for San Francisco. Let's see how it goes again next week. All right, Jacksonville goes to the Chargers in LA, 425 CBS. The Jags are 7.5-point dogs to the Chargers. LA minus 380 on the money line, and the total is at 49 in this one, 49 even. I've watched enough of this Jaguars defense to absolutely eat that total up, I would think, at 49. But my problem is the offense hasn't been as explosive of late in Jacksonville. So I'm a little hesitant, but I think I'm going to go. So I think I'm just going to stick with the Chargers at -7.5 on this one. I was walking my way toward the over on that one. And then I went back and realized, oh, wait, the Jags are going to the West Coast. They usually get throttled out there. Let's go with the Chargers at -7.5.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm definitely going to take the Chargers on the spread in this one. I think Justin Herbert has been playing lights out. I mentioned earlier, maybe his play was a factor in naming two of the starter moving forward for the Miami Dolphins. But with that being said, I think this Chargers offense has been clicking. Mike Williams had some big games. Keenan Allen, you know what he can do. If they can get that running game going, with no Austin Eckler, I know that offensive line has been struggling. But once again, that Jaguars defense is definitely decimated with injuries and is young in a sense. So I really going to take the Chargers with the spread in this one.
Yeah, and for all the excitement around Minshew since the Dolphins game, this Jags offense has not been pretty. It's not been pretty, and there's already, like, I'm seeing a piece up here on ESPN.com about Doug Marrone won't rule out sitting Minshew, which great. You're hearing a frustrated Jags fan here, but Minshew looked pretty solid last season at times. He looked like he had his moments, and I was hoping to see a season of development. To me, I think they need to continue to invest in him and realize that there's some shortcomings on the roster around him. But you got to see a little more on the offensive side of the ball. And the Chargers, it's not like the Chargers. I know they played some good games out there. They're 1-4 themselves. So this isn't like a top-notch football team that you're going to play. I know the Chargers played some well in some big games, so we give them the respect. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, Tampa Bay Vegas is supposed to be the NBC game at 8:20, but there's no spread on it, which I went and looked into that. And it's because the Raiders sent all 5 starting offensive linemen home today. Trent Brown. This is from Vic Tafur. That's Tafur. Vic Tafur on Twitter. Raiders sent all 5 offensive linemen home today. Trent Brown is going on the COVID-19 list. John Gruden is concerned about contact tracing since they've been around Brown recently. Their status for Sunday is unknown, he said. Derek Carr said he feels bad for his starting lineman, but has to focus on who's out there at practice today. We've been brainwashed since we were little kids that when a player goes down, it's next man up. And that has to be the approach until those guys come back. That sounds like a nice saying when you're not missing your entire offensive line. I mean, this has to be a thing where I know in college football, this has been a logic behind postponing and canceling games when you miss the entire unit like that. I'm not sure that's going to fly in the NFL, though.
Yeah, you're right. I don't see this being a detriment to, the game moving forward. But even without the loss of the offensive lineman, I think this Tampa Bay defense is one of the better defenses in the NFL. So I was going to go Tampa Bay with the spread in this one. And, more so now with the loss of Trent Brown on the offensive line. So it's probably going to be tough sledding for Josh Jacobs moving forward.
Yeah, we're gonna refrain from picking this game because there's not a clear spread out on Bovada right now. So we're going to lay off picking this game. I just wanted to mention that for our listening audience. So Monday night, we're going to go back to LA here. The Rams are 6-point favorites over the Bears, minus 270 on the money line. And the over under is at 45. Are the Bears sneaky good or are they just not good and just happen to have a 5-1 record, Rob?
I'm gonna go with the latter. I think the Bears are, they're sneaky, somewhat good, if that makes sense. I think, the addition of Nick Foles into the starting lineup has given them the opportunity to push the ball downfield. I know Allen Robinson is loving it, and they're getting great play from the running back position out of David Montgomery, and that defense is coming along. I know it's not the defense that we've known that the Bears have, but it just seems like Khalil Mack is slowly taking over, especially getting to the quarterback. So I think this Bears team is good, but I think this Rams team is just better. So I'm definitely rolling with the Rams on the spread in this one.
Even after that performance against San Francisco last week.
Yeah, I think that performance last week was an anomaly for the Rams. I think, Sean McVay and Jared Goff kind of went back to the drawing board and is going to dial up some stuff. So I really like the Rams to roll in this one. So give me the Rams, and especially I think the Rams defense is actually really, really good. And I think Aaron Donald is going to, take this matchup personally and who's the best defensive player in the league between him and Khalil Mack.
I think that if this were a week ago, I'd be totally on board with the Rams right now. But that game at San Francisco just puzzled me. It puzzled me greatly, and it makes me concerned. I went back and I started diagnosing the Rams, who they've actually beaten. Rob, the Rams are 4-2. Do you know who those 4 wins are against?
I know where you're going, but once again, it's just one of those.
Do the people let the people know where I'm going though?
Yeah, who
have they beaten?
They haven't beaten any, like great team out there. But once again, you have to play the games that's in front of you. So
I understand, but Rob, what did we just say? What have we been saying this whole podcast about the NFC East?
It's a horrible division. It's a horrible division.
All right, that's what I was trying to get you. Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants, the Redskins. Those are the 4 wins the Rams have. So what I'm saying is I was excited early on. I mean, I thought the Cowboys were a little better than they are. I thought the Eagles were a little better than they are. They almost came back with the Bills. And then, honestly, this was like my bounce back team. I've been all about the Rams. I've been all about the Rams kind of like almost as much as I've been about the Browns. I really like the Rams. I want to see them bounce back. I like McVay. I like that style of football. However, I'm just afraid that I bought in on a team that built up on trash. And I'm not sure that they're actually as good as their 4-2 record appears. And maybe they're more like the Rams of last year. And I'm going to go whatever the Bears are doing. I could not believe they beat Tampa. And then they go down to Carolina. They beat Carolina. I mean, whatever they're doing, it's working. And what they're doing is playing great defense is the primary thing they're doing. So you give me Chicago with that defense and 6 points. I'll take the Bears in this one. I might be jumping off the Rams. I might be jumping off them, selling my Rams stock, Rob, if you want to buy some.
Yeah, I'm willing to buy some of your Rams stock. I really think they're a complete team. I know Sean McVay is one of the best, offensive minds that we have in the game. And I think Jared Goff, he's not the elite quarterback that you put in the tier 1 or tier 2, but I think he gets the job done based off Sean McVay and his offensive play calling. And once again, you have, one of the best defensive players in the NFL and Aaron Donald, who's really coming into his own in the last couple of games. So I really like the Rams in this one. I like what the Bears are doing, but once again, I really think the Rams is really a contender to make a late playoff push this year. They're last year they didn't do so well. I know the Super Bowl year, everyone kind of expect them to kind of be back year in and year out. But I think this is a year that they put it all together and they actually make another push.
Yeah, I don't know. I think with the Cardinals and Seahawks in that division, I'm just starting to doubt. I saw the light on Sunday after watching. I was completely dumbstruck by that game, and I saw the light a little bit. So I'm starting to sell the stock, man. I hate to say it, but I see your point there too. That's why I think makes this game a very interesting Monday Night Football game, is because it's a midseason matchup where these are two teams where we're not quite sure what they are, and we get to see them go up head to head. I'm pretty fired up for this one. I think it's probably one of the better Monday night games we've had all year.
I definitely agree with you on the fact that, this is probably one of the best Monday night games we have all year. And we're after this game, we're going to, see if the Rams are for real or the Bears are for real. So I think it's a good matchup, and we can kind of analyze it after the game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, let's go on to the Did You Know question of the week, brought to you by Coach Paint. And Rob, I got the question for you. Who was the last Miami Dolphins starting quarterback to win a playoff, or to start a playoff game, not win? Let me start that over. Who was the last Miami Dolphins quarterback to start a playoff game? And we'll come back with that answer right after this. American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint is a great tool that allows us to add graphics to player highlight clips similar to the graphics you see on TV. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly illustrate video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game with Coach Paint today. Rob, before we went to break, I asked who the last Miami Dolphins quarterback was to start a playoff game.
I'm probably going to go with a guy who's been playing fairly well this year and actually last year. I'm going to go with Ryan Tannehill.
Nope. Don't say him.
Not Tannehill, our boy Tannehill.
No, don't say him.
We might have to go back.
Lesser known in most circles, majorly known in some circles.
I mean, if we're gonna go there, wow. Could it be your boy Matt Moore?
It's your boy Matt Moore. He started the 2016 wild card game against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Your boy Matt Moore. Wow, that totally slipped my mind.
He filled in. Tannehill got injured late in the season. Matt Moore came in.
Wow, yeah, I that really slipped my mind. Your boy Matt Moore, the last Dolphins quarterback to start a playoff game. Wow, that's a good did you know right there. I didn't know you was gonna bring your boy up on this segment, but it is Matt Moore. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, he can play some football. What do you know about the Oregon State Beavers?
Yeah, he can come in and he can throw it around, and he can be productive, in spot duty. But shout out to Matt Moore, Nick's boy. But yeah, so hopefully that trend will end this year, and maybe it will be Tua.
Matt Moore. When was Matt Moore's rookie year?
We're definitely going back.
I thought it was earlier. It was. I thought it was earlier than it was.
I'm gonna probably go 04, 05.
That's where I was too. I thought he was like early 2000s at Oregon State. It was 07.
Oh wow.
It was 07. Bonus question:
Wow.
Who did he come into the league with?
Well, let's see. Off the top of my head, I don't want to say the Chiefs.
Don't say him then.
Wow.
He was with the Chiefs. He finished his career in Kansas City.
Finished with the Chiefs. I know he had a stint with the Dolphins. For some reason, I want to pick another AFC team.
Nope.
Not AFC.
Not AFC.
We're gonna go NFC then. So
way to narrow it down.
Wow.
Folks,
wow,
we're changing the tenor of these questions. We were having like fun competition at first with it, and now we're just trying to be ruthless with each other.
Yeah. I don't know that you stumped me on that one, Nick. But
you narrowed it down to the whole NFC, Rob. You already narrowed it down to the whole NFC. You got it in you.
Just for giggles, I'm gonna throw out the Cowboys.
No, the Carolina Panthers, man.
Oh, okay.
He was there for 4 years or 3 years.
Interesting.
3 years before he went to Miami. So Matt Moore, last Dolphins quarterback to start a playoff game. I figured you'd like that question. All right, that's all I got for tonight. You want to read us out, Rob?
So that was a great question. Sure will. So once again, we'd like to appreciate the fans for listening to this episode of American Football Stories. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please subscribe and rate us 5 stars. Follow us on Twitter at American FP Stories, and check out our website at AmericanFootballStories.com. Once again, my name is Robert Parker III, and my co-host is Nick Newsom, and we will see you next time, and thank you.
You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out. Because it matters.
I hope there's Bigfoot. I don't think there is. The reason I don't think there is because we've found bones of dinosaurs and everything else, but we haven't found bones that I've heard of Bigfoot.
I'm very upset. We should have been in a ball game with fast field goal. The coach had sent him in. We shouldn't have sent him in. That's a dang coaching mistake. That the kids are playing their tail off, and the coaches are screwing it up.
We just got to stop that little inside trap. You know, the option didn't hurt us much. We played pretty hard. We just got to stop that inside thing. Offensively, we kind of sputtered around, got the ball in the end zone. You know, defensively, we got to get out off the field on that 2-minute drive.
Injuries to your offensive line. What do you do in the second half?
Oh, we're just going to play. We just got to keep playing.
Thank you, Coach.
He has a magnificent personality, I'll tell you.
We receive a lot of mail during the course of the season, and A lot of it's good mail, a lot of it's bad, and one of the
I would say that most of it is good, though, isn't it, Bill?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd say 95 to 98% of the mail we get is always good.
But the one question that keeps coming up where Woody Hayes' name is involved, they say you're a man of no mercy. And yet...
You know, frankly, I don't care much what they think.